I was just gonna call, does,
Meeting of the board. Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting, the October 21st meeting of the Board of Architectural Review to order. Excuse me, got it. Our first order of business is the O'Neill Gordon application, and who's here representing O'Neill and Gordon this evening?
Yeah, hi, I'm here, Brian Natinsky, the architect.
Hi, Brian. Okay, so just as a bit of background to remind folks, we have already approved the alterations to the house here. And now we're focusing on the greenhouse, the recladding the gate and the pillars, and I think a lighting plan. Is that correct, Brian?
That's correct.
Okay, Brian, perhaps you can share the screen and show what has changed between now and our last visit. I know in the interim that you have received variance from the BZA.
Okay, you see my my drawing?
mm-hmm, yes,
Okay. So what I wanted to show you tonight were the materials that we're proposing. We have an image of the stone that we are planning on using. And we also have a color for the wood gates. So this stone is actually, it's a mock-up from another project that I worked on upstate. And it's working with a stonemason that gets all of his stone from reclaimed walls in Connecticut and in New York State. So that's what we're planning on using. And I can zoom in on that to give you a better view. And also I have another image from that project if you'd like to see it.
Sure.
Okay. Let me get that. So this is from that same stonemason, using that same stone that was in the image that we submitted.
Interesting. So that's just cladding. It's over what, cinder block construction or something?
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna need to. Well, this is Adam. I don't know if he's trying to get in. Hi.
oh,
No, I'm in now. I'm presenting. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think Adam's trying to get in. I guess he's having some trouble.
yeah, I just let him in.
Okay.
I just let him in.
So this is going to be used in a few locations. This is also for the greenhouse wall, but at the gate and the piers, what I think we're gonna do is pour a concrete structure and then wrap this around it with a veneer, like 3 or 4 inches thick. The idea originally was to keep what's there, but it just seems like it's better to start from scratch when we're using stone. It's going to be more stable.
Does anyone have any comments on the stone?
It's very handsome.
Yeah, it looks good. Love it.
And it doesn't scream out veneer.
No, and this guy who we're planning on working with, he does really beautiful work, and he's able to resource some really great material. I guess he's got some connections throughout the state where when he hears about a wall that's being taken down or being removed from a site, he goes and grabs it. So he's got a great resource.
Nice.
It's nice. It seems like some of it is pillowed, which I like, which feels tuxedo parky to me a little bit. I was wondering, I mean, we may want to see a sample of it when it's
Sure.
up, when you start the work, just to see if what your vision was created by this guy, was provided by this guy.
And It varies somewhat just depending on what he has in stock. I mean, usually he's had enough where you can go and pick through and select specific types of stone.
Oh.
Hi.
Hmm.
Sure. Adam's having trouble getting in, but I've got him on my speakerphone.
Okay, so, you know, if we like what your vision is on the stone, but I think we'd like to see it as a mock-up of it on the site before you actually start, because, you know, it is somewhat variable.
Sure.
Could you also show us, tell us what color this gray is? And
Yeah, let me zoom in. So it's a Benjamin Moore color, and it's called Greystone, which wasn't the reason why we selected it. It just happened to be, I guess it's appropriate. So, you know, just trying to find something that is in the stone too, and bring that out.
Mhm. Looks great.
So the other element is the lighting, and Adam and I discussed what direction we wanted to move in, and what we decided to do is for the gate piers and also for the stone wall of the greenhouse, instead of mounting something on the surface, we're going to light it using uplights. They're going to be recessed in a piece of, you know, a thin piece of stone, at the base, and then shine up and light the gates, and also light the wall inside of the greenhouse. And I'll show you, I submitted this, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it, but it's a very simple Bega fixture made for outdoors.
Yeah,
And,
I see it.
let me make sure that you're seeing the fixture and not the drawing there.
Oh, great.
Like kind of like pots almost.
Mhm.
And they'll just expand to the height of the fixture of the pillars and they'll be somewhat shielded in the greenhouse. We just don't want them to extend outside of the greenhouse, as our engineer is discussing. I think he may be on
This specific fixture is adjustable, the bulb and the angle. So you can control, and depending on how far you move it from the fixture, you can control the cone of lighting and how far it goes up, how high it goes on the wall or on the pier. So that way we can really aim it and light exactly what we want to light.
So you can wash the wall with them then?
Yes, that's what it's made for, especially that there's a fixed version, which is just going straight up, and there's another version which is adjustable. So we'll use the adjustable so we can angle it and wash the wall and the stone. And while I'll show you the plan for the greenhouse, so you can see how we're planning on utilizing it.
Yeah.
So this is the plan. This is the stone wall. So we're going to use it in a series installed flush with the stone pavers, which is the floor of the greenhouse and also of the outdoor terrace, and just have it light up and wash the wall.
And not extend really beyond that.
No, I mean, there's no reason
Yeah.
to do that. And this allows us to really control how it's lit.
Mhm.
And Brian, that's just on the lake side, not on the other side.
It's just on the lakeside,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I mean, we're not planning on using this on the roadside. It was really about using it to light inside the greenhouse. And I think it would be lit when it's being used. I don't think they're planning on using, having it lit all the time.
Good.
But if they wanted to at night, or maybe if they're out, out in the yard, in the site, using the site, or had people over, maybe then they could light it as another light source.
Right.
But otherwise it would be off.
And do you have the plan for the lights for the entrance gate?
Yeah. So there's really, it's one light at each pier. Just to mark the gate and the drive.
Angled against the pier to wash it
Exactly.
and not confuse the birds. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And not confuse the birds.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've had a discussion with Adam and Christina, and in other properties, they've used surface mounted sconces and lighting, and it's hard. They just have never felt like it was right for them, and they're hard to keep up, and they don't provide the kind of lighting that they really want. They want it to be very discreet.
Lovely.
Yes,
Could you
agreed.
zoom out again on that image? I want to see which side. I can't see where the road is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Inside or outside.
Let me go to the site plan. So the road is down, to the bottom of the drawing. It's not in this particular, this isn't the site. This is just a plan of the blow up of the gates and the piers. So let me go to the site plan just to give you a better idea how these are located. So there are two, it's a curved drive.
Mhm.
So there are two gates, obviously one at each entrance to the drive. So here and here.
Got it.
Mhm.
And these will be matching the same size and materials and paint color for the gate.
Mhm.
Have there been any other changes? Does anyone else have any discussion on the lighting?
No?
Are there any
There's
changes?
also lighting on the, mounted on the house as well, right, Brian?
Yes, so we have sconces at 2 locations, just at both of the entrance doors.
Are they shaded or are they clear?
They're clear, but they're an LED. I'll show you the fixture that we're proposing.
I see they're covered, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, and you can actually use, you can choose a clear glass or a frosted. We've been leaning towards a clear. If there's a strong feeling either way, it's flexible. But we're planning on using the dark bronze finish. And the fixture is rated at a maximum of 40 watts. But we'll use an LED bulb that I think the output is equivalent to a 40 watt. It's 5 watts, but it's equivalent to a 40 watt incandescent.
Mhm.
Can you share that image?
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, so here is the bulb, and let me go to the fixture. I jumped ahead, forgetting that you can't see it without me switching. So this is the fixture. And we're proposing one on either side of the front door. And then at the side door, there's room for one fixture to one side, and there's a window on the other side. I'll show you that.
Seems a bit modern and harsh to me, but
Delightfully so for me.
yeah. Like,
I'm sorry.
Delightfully so for me.
No, I hear you, Sheila, but at the same time, I tend to agree with Christopher that it coheres with a lot of the other choices that they've made and some of the steel. I believe there are a couple of steel windows elsewhere.
Yeah, the front facade, we're using steel for all the new windows, a steel frame window.
And so this to me feels sort of like a just a in dialogue or sort of echoing that.
Maybe this image is helpful. It gives you a corner view.
yeah, that is a better view and points well taken. How does the board feel about clear versus shading of the glass, because we never know. Who may end up being the owner in a few years, whether they're going to accommodate 40-watt LED bulb.
Is it possible, Brian, to magnify the one on the right with the, yeah.
Yeah, this is great example of how it's gonna look. So this, you see the frosted on the right, the clear in the middle.
It's funny, the middle one, the naked bulb, to me, evokes much more of a 1930s sensibility, which sort of I'm getting from the house, and I think it's more appropriate and looks great. The one with the shaded, the one with the
Yeah.
on the right, it looks Home Depot-ish. It detracts.
Well, or more specifically, West Elm. But I think
Restoration hardwood.
I think the middle one is very kind of Hollywood Regency 2.0, which I think is sort of what you're going for, and
Yeah.
and I think that works nicely.
I think I can get comfortable based on the fact that it's covered. And of low wattage. And I appreciate the steel for this property invites this kind of a fixture.
I agree that it looks better, but can we approve something like that, given the issues that we've had in the past?
Well, the wattage I think is low enough that does that not mitigate?
Yeah, but someone could put a 40-watt LED bulb in there and you would see it from, the other side of the lake.
Oh, I see.
Well, that's a fair point too. I mean, the structure of the, yeah.
I mean, if there's an issue with the bulb when it's installed, then it's obviously something that's easy to change.
I think the concern is that it's not what you will do, it's what the next might do.
I see. Well, that.
I mean, are there other, I mean, I know, sounds like some of our members are thrilled with this. I'm accommodating of it, but do have a concern, as Josh reports about, if it extends too far. Did you look at other possible?
Yeah, we did. This is the one where we landed. I have to dig through and see the other ones that I presented to Adam and Christina.
I mean, I feel like really any fixture that anyone chooses is prone or open to the same abuse that you mentioned, Josh. I mean, anyone could suddenly, and then it would be up to the building inspector and us, I suppose, to weigh in.
Yeah, it's true, but this has been a very contentious issue in the past, and there was a prior application about a year or two ago where this involved about half of the community. They were very concerned about what lighting was going to be. So I think we should just try to stay consistent.
The house was already approved, Brian, and that we're talking about only gates and the greenhouse.
Adam's asking about the fact that the house was approved. So he's
Lighting plan is separate.
Permit issues according to John, and we're only here to discuss the gates and the greenhouse. So it feels like we're moving backwards.
As my understanding was that a lighting plan was being provided later, and this is that later time.
One point about where these are located is they're only located on the street side. They're not visible from the lake.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, and the trees and the planting on that side of the house.
Yeah,
is
thank you
fairly dense.
Thank you for mentioning that, Brian, because the ones I think that you're referring to, Josh, were right on the street. If you're talking about Circuit Road.
Yeah, that was one of the applications that got pretty, it became an issue for sure.
Let me show you on the site plan exactly where these are located.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yes, location, and appropriateness. And when some other historical houses are using new fixtures in a historical feel, and then there's a modern light bulb inside. I think that's when it gets a little bit jarring, and we've had problems in the past. Here, I think it's so appropriate. It's clean. And it is not on the road. So I'm 100% comfortable in this situation, in this location, with this style, with this.
I would have to concur. I think it's a very valid consideration brought up, and were the location different, I think we would actually want to take it through its paces. But given that these are well off the road, covered from the top, and have a low LED, low wattage appearing LED bulb, that from where I sit, they are fine.
I don't necessarily disagree. I'm just trying to avoid an issue for the village if some people get upset about this.
No, I think it's
Perhaps there's a way that we can put into the approval the wattage, the total wattage of an LED bulb, or maybe we can specify
Yeah,
a lumen threshold for the bulb.
Sure.
So this bulb, as it's submitted, it's 400 lumens at 5 watts. And if you want to specify that's the maximum, at least of this specific type that we found. But
Well, as long
that helps.
as long as our lawyer, for the board's lawyer, feels that that's appropriate, I think that'd be a good idea to set that threshold.
I think that would be a resolution to this issue. And this way, it would address what Josh has mentioned, that if a later buyer comes and puts in a 20-watt LED that's visible from miles around, they would be technically in violation of this approval. And John would have something to violate them on.
Great,
That's totally fine with me.
great.
okay.
So that was what we had to show you. There weren't other changes that were required by the zoning, our zoning hearing. So we're proposing as it was, we're just elaborating on what we've already proposed with the materials and these lighting fixtures.
In reviewing the decision of the zoning board, I guess you're decreasing the height of the wall by a foot, is that correct?
Yes, it was discussed at the meeting. We never received the final resolution, but whatever that is, we'll accommodate that.
Yeah, my understanding is that if
Yeah, and that's fine.
conditions on which the approval is being provided, as well as the fact that the greenhouse structure is being used as a greenhouse, and and they're feeling that it's a good use of the property since it's not additional housing and it doesn't impact the lake. And so it's going to be used as a greenhouse. Does anyone else, is there any members of the public here that wanted to speak on this application? Did the engineer or council or John have any comments?
I don't have any comments.
I have no
No.
comments.
Okay,
They answered all of mine as well. Yeah, the technical review comments.
okay. So,
One question, which finish did you say again?
For the,
The lamp, the sconce,
it's a dark bronze.
the bronze finish, okay.
Yeah, a dark bronze.
It's the one depicted, I think. Yeah.
Yes, the one that's depicted in the image. And I'll go back to that so you can take another look.
did you also provide me a list of myself and Steve Honan, a list of the latest numbers of the latest drawings that you're submitting, so that if we make a resolution, we're able to?
Yeah, it was resubmitted about a week and a half ago. But whatever you need for us to send to you, that's, that's fine.
I don't mean send it, I mean so that this evening, if you're seeking an
Oh.
approval, we're in a position to say as provided on drawings, blah, 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 as
Sure.
submitted on X date by the firm of X, Y, and Z.
So it's drawing, the ones that specifically we've looked at were drawing A206, A207, and A208, which refer to the greenhouse and the gates. And they were submitted by Brian Natinsky Architecture on October 7th. I mean, yeah, on October 7th, 2021. And the other drawings that refer to the house, the facade, was A201.
But those are already approved, correct? And there's no changes there.
Yeah, it was just adding the locations of the sconce.
Ah, okay, you can tell me those then.
It's A201.
Okay.
Submitted at on the same date, October
Can you tell
7th.
me the manufacturer of your light fixtures?
It's Restoration Hardware,
Okay, I know them. And
now known as just RH. I think they've
yeah,
gotten rid of the Restoration Hardware part of it.
yeah. And is there a name of the fixture? I know.
Yeah, it's the Petrus Square Sconce in the bronze finish.
And with a maximum of 400 lumens at 5 watts.
Yes, that's the bulb that we're
Yeah.
going to use. And it's with a clear glass shade.
And the other, this for the gate and the greenhouse?
So the other fixture is the Ingrade luminaire. I'll share that with you so you can. Ingrade luminaire by Bega, B-E-G-A. And that's the asymmetric fixture number 77019, which is a 3-watt bulb, LED bulb.
And that's for all of them, right? All the remaining,
Yes, they'll all be the same.
a maximum 3 light.
Yeah, that's what comes in with a fixture.
Okay. And the color and the Benjamin Moore paint that you're proposing for the gates?
The Benjamin Moore paint,
Is it Grey Gardens?
yeah, it's gray stone, Grey Gardens, exactly.
Okay,
It's gray stone 1475.
okay. And do we want to see a mock-up when they're ready to put the paint on of the stone and the paint for the gates, folks?
I'm
I
comfortable.
I'm perfectly comfortable, yeah. Without.
With
Right.
what they're proposing, yeah. The only thing that would suggest is we had a recent thing in the park where some very visible stonework was going to be done, and the stones that were used were quite a different color from what was intended.
Yeah, that's why I would propose seeing them. I would be in favor of taking a look at them, just because we required it of everyone else.
Would you like would a few representative samples be okay, or would you like to see a mock-up?
Well, I think I'd like to see a mock-up at the location as well as a paint on a piece of the gate.
With a sample of the paint also.
Yeah, I mean, we'll approve it subject to seeing it in person when the time comes.
Okay,
Is that all right, guys? Are you okay with us doing that?
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
opposed to doing that. Yeah, okay. Okay.
So long now.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry. Sheila, can I just ask Brian one question?
Of course.
With respect to the drawings that you just mentioned, do you have a date and last revised on those drawings?
yeah, they were last issued on October 7th, 2021.
Thank you.
And it's, yeah. The BAR application set revised is the title of the issue.
Okay. Okay. So with all that being said, do we want to, shall I make a resolution, or are members in favor of moving this forward with a resolution? Okay. And Steve Honan, if I mess up, please help me out.
I'll try to follow along.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the application of O'Neill and Gordon at 457 West Lake Road for construction of a structure to be used exclusively as a greenhouse with an associated wall, and reconstructing and cladding entrance gates to the property in accordance with the decision of the BZA and the variances provided therein, as well as lighting as follows. First of all, the drawings are A206, A207, A208, and A201 as prepared by the Brian Dutinsky architecture firm. Bar application last revised on October 7, 2001, and including the following lighting fixtures and bulb wattages. Restoration hardware bronze for the entrance to the home. Restoration hardware bronze Petrus square sconces, with maximum of 400 lumens at 5-watt bulbs and clear shades. As far as the remaining additional fixtures, all is shown on the drawings provided to the bar. The engraved luminaire by, if I got this right, by BEG Vega.
Yep.
Number 77019, maximum 3-watt bulbs. Did I get that? Aerometric? Is that the right word?
Asymmetric,
Asymmetric, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Those are 3-watt LED bulbs, correct?
yes, 3-watt LED.
right, LED bulbs. And painting of the Benjamin Moore Greystone paint on the gates. And the stone work as the stone veneer as proposed field stone veneer as shown in the proposal to the bar. It's Greystone BM 1475, Desiree. And the stone is showed subject with the stone and the paint color approved subject to a site visit before installation. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it.
You said 2001, Space Odyssey.
Oh, my goodness, 2021. I'm sure Desiree would have thought that.
Can you just do me a favor? Excuse
Yes.
me. Can you just repeat the name of the, I guess it was the dark bronze, the company for the
Our-
lighting for the entrance?
RH Restoration Hardware.
Oh, no, then it was the one previous to that. The, was it the Vega, Vega?
Yes,
Vega.
asymmetric number 77019.
Luminaire.
Luminaire. Luminaire.
Oh,
3-watt.
Des- Desiree, when they were talking about the restoration hardware, they mentioned Petrus square sconce, I believe. Is that the
Okay,
word you're
there I
looking for?
have, okay.
Okay,
No, I have it. It was just
Okay.
the other name that I didn't see it written on the plans on the photo, that's why. I only saw the actual numbers, but I didn't see the name of the,
So this has been clarified. That's great. Okay, everybody got what they need? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have with Gal, I can't see you all. Gal approve,
Yes.
McQuilkin approve,
Yes,
Josh,
Just to clarify, were we approving the greenhouse as well? I guess I missed that at the beginning.
oh, that's a good point. Are there any changes to the greenhouse?
No, it was
Other
just,
than it's gonna be, then it'll be a foot shorter and we need in accordance with the BZA decision. Very good point, Josh.
I was a minute late getting into the meeting. For some reason, I couldn't get in, so I don't know if we had covered the greenhouse at all.
Oh, no, we didn't really discuss it further because there were no further changes other than the BZA adjustment, but we should take a moment. I know we're in the middle of a resolution, but we need to clarify whether we're also approving the greenhouse as provided on the draw. Well, we were approving it because they were on the drawings as set forth, but we didn't really have a discussion. Did anyone have any comments on the greenhouse?
I would just reiterate what I said previously, is I feel that this is a bit too modern of a structure to plop down by the lake. I'm not quite sure what really fits there. I think the stone wall is a nice feature. I think everything else that's going on with this property is very good. It's a great improvement, but I'm still just not, I'm not sure about this, and especially in the material that it's being constructed in.
And I'll just reiterate that, given that it is, a greenhouse, my sense is that it is very much in keeping with greenhouses as they've been, understood or constructed or viewed for, upwards of, 150 years. And certainly for this particular house, which is a little bit Regency to begin with, but is certainly being reconfigured as sort of Hollywood Regency Redux. To me, this is all part of the program that you've set forward. I think very persuasively. So from where I sit, it's fine, and in fact, lovely.
Brian, with the reduction in the height, how high does it sit above the hall now?
It's 2 foot. Hang on, let me get to the next drawing. The 2 foot, 3'10" above the wall.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's vote again. This includes approval of the greenhouse, all the drawings are set forth herein and subject to the BZA decision. Christopher Gow, how do you
Yeah.
vote? Rob McQuilton, how do you vote?
Yes, yep, aye.
Josh, how do you vote?
My vote is nay, based on what I previously said.
And I vote in favor, so we're 3 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we can stop sharing the screen.
Have a great rest of your meeting and evening.
You too, Brian. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that brings us to the second applicant on the agenda, which is the Sangiani fence proposal. I have received a memo. This is at 62 Clubhouse Road. It's for an extension of the fence. I have received a memo today, dated October 20th, from John Ledwith, pointing out that the drain pipe mentioned on this property was provided as an accommodation to the village some 10 years ago to provide for drainage on Clubhouse, and that the DPW has no problem with this application. And it's not a pressurized water line. And with that, I would ask Mr. Sangiani to explain to us what he's proposing.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I don't know if you've driven up Clubhouse Road, but last year about this time you had approved a fence on my side yard, and I'm proposing, now that is up and constructed. It's a nice green fence. We have roses in front of it, and we are proposing to run down our southernmost side yard 2 feet in. I've checked, and the pipe is really just not an issue. I'm not going to hit it, and it's a plastic pipe that I allowed the village to put in on my property. So there's no easement or anything. It just benefited myself and everyone else on the street. And we had the DPW Jeff come over and John Ledwith, and everyone's agreed it can be serviced from either side without an issue, or even on my front yard, which the fence does not limit. So It's going to be the exact same fence that is there. I provided a picture. I hope you have of what it actually looks like. It'll be the same material, same configuration, same height, same what they call rabbit fence, where the bottom 2 feet is filled. And it, nope. There we go. There you go. That's what it looks like. So we're just going to run that down the side along our bushes and replace a deer fence that we've had for a while with that have cedar posts. It'll be the same posts that are in the front. They're, I believe, 5.5 inch, the wider posts with a cap on the top of each one, a very subtle cap, as you see, and it's a green stain. And we'll be matching that exactly.
And Mr. Sangiani, I think you pointed out that, was it 20 other of your neighbors on that block have fences?
Yes, my wife, Robin, went along and counted that out. There are 23 homes on Clubhouse Road, and only 3 did not have fences. Ours was one. Now we have one on just the side yard in line with the front of our house. Actually, it's set back a few inches.
And I
So,
believe your neighbor wrote a letter in favor, is that correct?
yes, and I believe that Mr. Ledwith spoke to my other neighbor, the Robinsons, who we've been neighbors for forever, and she was quite aware, supportive of it, and in fact texted me back that she was supportive of it, and I believe spoke with John this afternoon. He can confirm that, who also has a fence that goes on my northernmost side of the house and westerly side. So I think that it actually makes better neighbors on our street, and everyone seems to be complimenting what we did so far. And we'd like to continue that, keep the animals out and our animals in, and the ticks out, and secure our property and have a courtyard that we can actually have plants and a little garden, which we had this summer for my wife.
And John, just confirming, there's no variances required with the proposal as set forth.
Correct. The height is below the permitted height, and the setback will be approximately 2 feet off the property line.
Does anyone have any comments?
No, it makes good sense, and it seems from where I sit to be sort of an open and shut, as it were, sort of application.
Anyone else? Is there any other neighbors or anyone else that wants to speak on this application present? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the fence on the application as proposed by Mr. Sangiani at, I'm sorry, at 62 Clubhouse Road, which will continue the existing fence that was approved prior in the same material and color and in the dimensions as provided herein, and will not require any variances by any other board. Is there a second?
Seconded?
Anything else we need to add, Mr. Honan? I don't think we have any. We just have a drawing, and we're basing it on the drawing that we have in the application.
Stephen, you may not have the plan that I have in front of you on the screen showing the exact location of the fence. I could forward it to you tomorrow. The initial plan showed the sewer line, but it didn't really highlight the fence.
Right, as long as we have some kind of a document we can refer to, so that months from now, if there's a question, John, you can pull a map and we can confirm what we approved.
Well, I will go with, the map that's on the screen that shows the blue fence, 2-foot setback. The initial document, we have an application.
Okay, that should be fine then.
Yep.
We have an explanation, by the property owner, and a letter from the immediate neighbor, and then the site plan showing the location.
And we also have the photograph showing what it's intended to look like.
It'll be a continuation of what was already approved by the bar.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll make the motion based upon the documents and photos that are made part of the application.
Is there a second?
Second.
No, I don't know if I got a second on the last one. It just Rob, would you approve this? How do I fix that, Mr. Honan?
I think quite frankly, I don't remember if we seconded it or not.
Yeah.
Let's finish with this one before we finish with this one
Okay,
yet.
all in favor of this one? I have a second.
Aye.
Okay, I think it's approved unanimously. And Desiree, please put in the record the memo from John Ledwith.
Okay.
Thank you. And I apologize. I think I don't recall that we put a second in. I was so busy getting the documents. Are we good, Steve Honan?
Well, when in doubt, we can always correct it. It's still part of the meeting. And just let's clarify. Maybe it was missed when we recorded it. Did somebody in their recollection remember seconding that motion?
If not, I'll second it now.
I
Okay.
believe Rob, I thought Rob did, but
Okay,
Oh, you did?
that's
Okay.
good.
Okay,
We'll just leave it at that then. If the minutes reflect that,
okay,
we're covered.
thank you. Sorry.
Well, thank you all for your time and your service. It's a very detailed job that you do, and it's a necessary job, and thank you very much for.
It's nice
approving
to
our
hear, Mike.
project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Aye.
Our last application for this evening is Francis Farming Area with regard to their ongoing issue with their fence. And who's representing them this evening?
Yeah, hi, it's Adam Farmery.
Hi. So, I believe we got something very late in the day for you, a new proposal. Can you?
Yeah,
what
yeah, I
you-
apologize that it took so long to get to you. Are you able to bring it up on screen or would you like me to do so?
If you could, do that would be great, unless John, you want to do it.
Hang on one second.
So, and I apologize that it took so long, but just to kind of set the scene and set the table, essentially we had gone about and erected a fence that hadn't been approved. And since erecting the fence, it was brought to our attention by our neighbors that they were dissatisfied with the way in which it had been done, which is fair enough. They were mostly dissatisfied by the height of the fence because the way in which the fence runs, it was larger than what is allocated and allowed on a side yard. We thought it was an interesting idea architecturally, but I think that the reality of it was not well received by our neighbors, nor was it well received by in conversations with John Ledwith. And so after making a series of recommendations for how we might revise this fence to sort of follow code more closely, it still seemed as though that anything that we were going to do to revise it was going to maybe not be as strong of a proposal as if we just kind of admitted to removing a chunk of the fence and starting fresh and coming up with a new proposal. So that was why we decided to sort of shift gears a little bit and make this new proposal. So yeah, so John, if you don't mind going to the first page of that PDF, essentially the property is such, we're talking about a fence on the far right on plan east of this site plan, where there is essentially an upper terrace and a lower terrace between ourselves and our neighbors. And the upper terrace, what we're recommending that we would do is to continue to keep a fence that we had erected without permission, but that we were now seeking to get permission for. It would be a wooden fence that would have a series of green giants planted on our side of that fence there. And that at that retaining wall that's shown there initially and currently, what we had done is we kept that wooden fence continuing on to that lower terrace, what we're calling the lower terrace, at the same height. And so that created a fence that was larger and higher than what is allowed by code. So what we're suggesting now is that we would remove that section of fence and that we would replace that with just a very simple stone wall that kind of connected the stone wall, the retaining wall, with the stone wall of the retaining wall that is abutting the driveway below. So the next two images that you'll see, one of them is showing essentially what we have currently. Again, we had an idea that we thought would be very interesting that would keep the height of the fence consistent, almost the horizon of that fence consistent as it went from the upper terrace to the lower terrace. But what that meant is that it was a fence on the lower terrace that was 8 foot above ground, which is clearly above code. And so what our recommendation is to do is to remove that section of fence on the lower terrace and to replace that with a very simple stone wall that starts at the height of the stone wall between the upper terrace and the lower terrace, which is approximately 4 feet, and to then continue down at a decreasing fashion. As the slope decreases slightly, we would get down to plus or minus 12 inches or 6 inches above the existing stone fence that it abuts the driveway. And again, this is very much a response to concerns that our neighbors have expressed to us, first and foremost. And having tried to work out a resolution with them in terms of recommendations that we were doing to how we would modify the fence, it didn't seem as though that we were going to find a good resolution. And so this is our new proposal that we think is maybe a little bit more sensitive to the landscape, a little bit more sensitive to the natural sense of the place, and that we would hope is a little bit more sensitive to the bar's considerations.
I appreciate your efforts. I have one question. Is the wood fence still on the property line?
I mean, depending on who's measuring it, it's somewhere between 1 foot and 2 foot from the property line. We've had surveyors out that have said it's probably about 2 feet from the property line, but our neighbors had disputed that. I do have a separate proposal out that I've shared with Mr. Ledwith, that I believe that when it comes to fences that are in between properties like this, and very much similar to what's happening on Clubhouse Drive, that the code, in order to have a fence 2 feet from the property line, doesn't necessarily make a tremendous amount of sense. And in situations where properties are abutting each other in this manner. However, I know that that's not a manner or a matter for the bar to be able to discuss or to even make an opinion on. But I understand that there is a code that is to be followed, and I just wanted to make a point that I'm interested in maybe following this up the ladder a little bit and potentially making a recommendation to change that code.
Mm-hmm. Or seek a variance. I mean, that's your other.
Or seek a variance. Yeah.
Because we can't really approve anything until that matter is resolved. Although we can discuss your proposal to give you our input on the stonework and anyone else present that would like to speak to the application.
Yeah, my recommendation right now is to say that we will remove the fence that is on the lower terrace immediately. I have calls out to several contractors to try to do that work, so that at least we alleviate some of the pressure on this application, and maybe make this an easier conversation about what should be approved for a lower terrace. But right now we're suggesting that we would, step one, remove that taller fence that is not to code immediately, and that step two, whether it's approved on this application, whether it's a longer conversation as to whether or not this proposal of a stone wall would be something that's more acceptable.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that mitigation effort. Any comments from our members?
Question, Adam. So the new stonework would be put in, and would that be the whole of it, or would there then be a wooden fence above that?
I think that would be the whole of it. I think for us, it's a matter of, and the gentleman before us sort of pointing this out, you know, for us, it's a matter of just sort of demarcating the property line and also keeping our animals in. And so for us, it's really just a matter of trying to form a small barrier that we can allow it. So we're suggesting we would get rid of the wooden fence entirely on that lower terrace.
Oh, okay. Thanks for explaining.
Yeah.
No, certainly the stone wall would be, if it's, you know, similar to the existing one, that would be a huge improvement and look very appropriate and make it less disjointed and suburban looking. So that would be a great improvement. I think the aesthetic thing in the corner, that angle, because of the vegetation finishes, so I think something in that corner that would be evergreen, like a leatherleaf viburnum, something like that, that grows into a big bush would be ideal, so that you don't see that sudden ending of the fence, because it is an ugly fence, and so the sooner the vegetation grows to hide it, the better, so that it can perform its function. Because
or you could even just do one even, because I assume with these arborvitae, you're going to trim them as a hedge, but you might punctuate it with one arborvitae in the corner that you allow to grow up altogether.
That's a very interesting idea, and that's exactly what we were planning on doing with those those evergreens, is to literally trim them out into just a beautiful kind of rectilinear you know, hedge that kind of followed the line of the property line.
Because I do agree with Christopher that if, you know, once you take the stone wall is a great improvement, and the removal of the wooden fence is definitely going to please all parties, but you will end up with that rather sore thumb of the abrupt ending of this. So something to both to
mask it.
Well, to take a problem and make it actually a really a good opportunity, like a positive, and something that really punctuates and frames the whole program. Would be great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's a excellent suggestion.
Of course, all of the improvement is on your side of the fence, which, you know.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak to this application?
Yes.
Mr. Wright-Gott.
Yes, please. I'm the neighbor. And if I may share my screen, I'd like to show you a different picture. But I need permission to do so.
Oh, please share the screen, Mr. Wright-Gott.
I am.
John, you got to give me permission to share.
Yeah, I had to get in and out. It's okay. You can get in now.
This is the fence from my side. This is the top terrace. I don't know. Can you see my little cursor there?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not exactly clear on what this plan is. But if it tapers down to a foot over the lower terrace, it's a 5 foot or so wall. The hill slopes in both directions there. So, I mean, I'm an engineer and I'm all in favor of tasteful and beautiful modifications to the landscape. I just not sure that there's enough to the sketch that we've seen so far to know exactly what's going on.
Well, Jay, I think that we can probably work out how much higher or lower it eventually abuts to that stone wall that is along your driveway. I mean, it can go to 0. I mean, it can go to 6 inches. I mean, some way that it's not, you know, my suggestion is right now is that we would match the height of the stone at the intersection of the upper terrace and the lower terrace, because that's the height of the stone that's there. And we would taper that down on a gradual taper that matches the height of the stone that is along your driveway. And so ultimately it would seem like a very seamless connection of the two parallel stone walls. I mean, I called it out on the drawing as 12 inches, but I think that's mainly just suggesting that 12 inches is the height that I don't think my dog can jump over. But if you were to say I'm really against 12 inches at that height, but instead I would accept 6 inches or 0 inches, then it seems like it's a much better version of a fence that still allows us to bifurcate that lower terrace. I'm just trying to come up with a solution that I think is A, better than what's there, you know, B, listening to your concerns, and C, making for a better scenario in general.
Right. So, I mean, we're not going to hash it out here, and it's not really, to a certain extent, not my decision. I mean, the bar exists for a reason, which is to help guide these sorts of decisions so that we have something that's appropriate and works with the building behind it and all the rest of it. And that's all. I just want to make sure that whatever the plan is, it's a plan. I mean, a fence, one fence along a property line doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, there's been talk about, you know, enclosing this for a possible pool in future or whatever. I mean, whatever the plan is, it just shouldn't be piecemeal.
Yeah, and look, we had presented that overall site plan previously. I think you made your concerns very, very clear over the past 6 months, that you were against a number of the things that we had in our proposal. So in terms of all of the work that we were looking to do, the pool, the tennis court, all this stuff, to some degree, yes, we've absolutely 100% shelved it for now, because it didn't necessarily seem like something that was going to be approved in a shorter period of time. However, what we are faced with is trying to mitigate something that's clearly an issue for ourselves, meaning yourself and us, in terms of our relationship, as well as for the bar. And so I think solving that problem now seems to be the most important step we can take without looking at the larger picture of tennis courts and pools, because I think it's just going to muddy the water. I'd like to make the suggestion that we mitigate this, you know, this 600-pound gorilla in the middle of the room by removing that chunk of 8-foot fence and discussing whether or not a stone wall that kind of fits with the landscape a little bit more carefully is a better solution.
Well, certainly from the bar's point of view, yeah, I think the stone wall makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you'd have to make a very detailed plan so that we can agree on it and approve it. So it's exactly what it's going to be. But your feedback from both neighbors is important about, obviously the upper end seems to make sense, matching the height. So it's the lower end. I mean, so to give you help in putting the plan together, what sort of height would you be thinking of? Would you be comfortable with? What is the answer to that question? Obviously, there's a function aspect about keeping animals in. So is that, you mentioned 12 inches, is that something that you think would be acceptable, Mr. Rajkot?
I'm not really sure I'm qualified to say that, but I mean, it's a little dog, but I'm not sure that 12 inches keeps anything out. I mean, if the interest is to keep something in the yard, then having a fence that has no end doesn't do it anyway. So then the fence needs to return to be closed, right? There needs to be some sort of closure. So the obvious answer is to run it along the top terrace till it hits the corner of the house. But
well, I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if that's
but I'm not.
necessarily
I don't.
true,
I really don't think that this is the venue for that. But, you know, there are other issues. The other end of the fence that you don't see isn't closed against the cliff face now, so it's a piece of fence along the line. I understand it's not finished. So the larger
Yeah.
issue is that the current fence is not to put it too mildly, a monstrosity. You know, you can see it from across the lake. So, and it's on the line. So there are a number of issues with the current fence. I'm all in favor of people being able to do with their property what they want with reasonable restrictions that we have for a reason in this village. And I look to the bar and the BZA and the other boards to enforce the rules that we have. And that's all we're really asking for.
So Mr. John Ledwith, do you know what the property line is? What are the exact distance between the property line and the fence?
No, I do not. Yeah, we typically rely on the applicant's surveyor or engineer to comply with what the code is.
I had my surveyors out to mark the line. Some of the marks are still out there. As far as I can tell, the fence is on the line. But I will call my friends, the surveyors, or some other surveyors, and have them out as soon as possible. I'll survey the fence again and we'll know for sure.
I think it's
Or
easy
Adam
enough
can
to
have
take.
his surveyors out. It doesn't matter to me.
It's easy enough to have multiple surveyors. I think it's also easy enough to go to seek a variance for that. I don't think that that's necessarily the key to this discussion. I think the key to the discussion is whether or not there is at least in the conversation that we're having now, is what is the appropriateness of the design proposal that's been put forward. The notion of whether or not we can get a variance or not, or whether or not this code even makes sense, isn't part of this conversation.
I think everyone agrees that's the case. So it sounds like you have to make a decision as to whether you and Mr. Reichbach can work out the look of the fence and the size of the stonework. But I think from the bar's position, getting rid of the 8-foot fence and substituting it with stone isn't terribly offensive. I can't say that I like the remainder of the fence, and we certainly can't make a decision on anything unless there's a variance for it. But you know, it needs to be shielded in some way.
Yeah, what I'm asking is that we would remove this large section of fence for now in order to release the pressure of this conversation. In the midst of that, we would apply for a variance. And in the midst of that, we would also start to lobby for changing the code.
Well,
Which, depending on whether you get a variance, might or might not be moot effectively for this situation. Right. I mean, what I'm hearing is good problem solving that is very sensible, and you know, as an aesthetic matter, I think the problem solving works well, particularly if it's combined with some judicious strategic planting as discussed. And I think it will remove the offending fact of that 8-foot high fence, and in so doing, take the temperature down in a way that'll be really productive.
Yeah, I
As you
appreciate
said.
that.
Yeah.
It's a strong step in the right direction, what you proposed.
I think that's all the feedback we can give at the moment, unless I don't know what else anyone's looking for from us at this point.
This would come back to us post variance, I assume. Is that right, Sheila?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
John? Mhm.
Yeah. So, I mean, if it's okay, I would like to propose that for now, we proceed with removing that section of 8-foot tall fence. We proceed with applying for a variance. We proceed with petitioning to change the code. And we proceed with hopefully working with Jay and Beth on, you know, tightening up the proposed new idea that we've got in terms of this low stone wall, and taking into account some of what Jay's even talked about, that there's a small section between the wooden fence and the cliff wall that would also need to have some type of way to enclose it in order to make a continuous and contiguous barrier. I'm confident that we can work that out, provided that Jay is open to that dialogue.
That sounds good. And the more detail, the better. So there's no, so it's not open to interpretation or misunderstandings.
Yeah,
But I think that's
fair point.
That's a great way to go. Thank you.
And I think it's admirable how coolly you lay it out, Adam. I know these things are tricky, and it's sometimes tempers can flare. I think it's admirable that you lay it out so thoughtfully and calmly.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Jay, definitely text me, and happy to meet up on the weekend or over the coming weeks, and we can try to work out some specifics.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any other comments on this matter or anything else before we move to the minutes?
One question, I don't know when this is appropriate to bring it up, Sheila, but my understanding is that the building inspector, John, that you had spoken with a neighbor who had made some rather major changes to the appearance of their property without making an application. And I was sort of under the assumption that they would come before the board at some point. This is on Tower Hill West, I think is the road.
Yes, and there's a violation notice that was issued to them, and they have not responded to the violation notice.
What is our recourse if they should choose not to respond?
I'm in the middle of issuing them a court appearance ticket, which will probably be issued by Monday or Tuesday. I just had to confirm with the court clerk what the date would be in November, given the Thanksgiving holiday.
Good. Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you.
Now, it has been an unfortunate case. I've tried to work with the applicant. I've met with her at least 3 times. And I thought I was making some progress, and then she decided not to respond at all.
And my understanding is that the applicant, or the would-be, the should-be applicant, was working with a professional who also happens to be a neighbor within the village, who presumably had a good grasp of the code. Is that accurate?
I don't know who she was working with in the
Well, maybe
village.
we can take this discussion offline. I'm not sure.
We
Okay.
probably should.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay, anybody have anything else? I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes. Desiree, what was the date of the last minutes that we're approving? Desiree?
I was on mute. I apologize.
Oh.
Yes, September 2nd, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Now
for
they
your help.
let us in. At 8 o'clock.
8:09.
I have 8:15.
Oh, you know what? My
Where is
computer
he
says 8:09 and my phone says 8:15. You're right.
Thank you.
Why so late? Why do you let us in at the end?
Is this Jill Swerble?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
Is
I'm
there someone
sorry.
else that- Wait, do we need to reopen the meeting?
Yes, can I ask Jill, are you here to discuss an application? Sorry.
No, I wanted to hear the meeting about the fence and I am concerned about it. And we have been trying to log in
I-
for
I-
like 45 minutes. So
I-
I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I think I tried to let you in about 30 minutes ago, and then I saw that you disappeared for a while.
No,
So-
Jason was trying to get in and Michael O'Neill, all three of us have been here trying to get in. And anyway, we missed
Oh.
it, but
Well, if you'd like to contact me tomorrow, I can give you a brief summary of the
that'd be great.
summary application.
I'd appreciate it. I'll check in with Beth as well. So thank you.
I
I'm sorry.
apologize for that.
Awesome.
I don't know why that happens.
Do we want to discuss the application that, I guess not. I guess that was
Yeah,
brought up
yeah.
earlier or no?
No.
No, okay. Thank you.
All right. All right. So if no one has any further comments, then I guess,
You want to? I can say you do. Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Adjourn-
do we, I
adjournment.
mean, I can reopen the meeting if someone would like to speak.
No, I see that Rob McQuilkin dropped off and he was the one that brought up the topic, so it's
All right.
probably best we table it.
All righty then. Thank you very much. Good
You're
night.
welcome. Bye-bye.